maybe in the chat have not been answered. So the first one was just kind of like understanding, completing the squares. Are there any like kind of tips? So the best kind of tip I can really think about with this is, first of all, understanding what it means to go from standard form to vertex form, right? So we have y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, and we're going to convert this to, or we want to put it in this format, this a times x minus h, and we can see plus c. Let's just use a plus c here to keep things the same. Sometimes obviously we use k when we're talking about vertex form, but just to kind of, so you can see, really the thing is we still have our a, right? But rather than writing this as an x squared plus bx, we're writing this as x squared or x minus h squared. And what that is, that's a binomial squared. So if we had like a fairly simple problem, like for instance, y equals, let's say, and again, I'm just going to do kind of like a basic idea here. If I had y equals x squared, let's see, plus 6x plus 9. Okay. Now, again, this is factorable. You can say that what two numbers multiply to give you 9, add to give me 6. You can see that's y equals, x plus 3 quantity squared. Well, what happened is I took a trinomial and I rewrote it as a binomial squared. That is technically completing the square, like you creating a perfect square. You're creating a binomial squared. So obviously in this problem, it was very easy because we had a perfect square trinomial. But what if we don't? So I'm not going to cover the a because that's a little bit more advanced and just kind of a little bit more step. But my point that I want to do is like, what if we had y equals x squared plus 6x plus 10, right? So it's a little bit different. Now, the thing is, I know if I was going to be able to have this as x squared plus 6x plus 9, that would be a perfect square trinomial, right? Not 10. So what I can do is, well, what if I just rewrote that as plus 9? Well, again, that's cool. That creates my perfect square trinomial, which I needed. But again, don't forget there's a 10 there. And also don't forget, you just can't randomly add a 9 to an equation, right? Equations are equal on the left and the right. So if you're going to add a 9 to the right side, that's cool. But then you also have to subtract it on the other side. Now I can factor this down. And that becomes x plus 3 quantity squared. 10 minus 9 is going to be 1. And there you go. We have now converted from standard form to vertex form. So for a lot of the problems, the student was asking for like tips and tricks. A lot of the problems, it's going to be fairly easy. Obviously, there is like an algorithm that you can follow to complete the square for any quadratic, which is important. But a lot of students just kind of need like this idea of really what we're looking for. And then for the more difficult problems, you can kind of follow